Here we go. The first question. Nimitta. Is a nimitta seen in meditation same as nimitta seen outside of meditation? Thank you. You see the nimitta in meditation first. It's the mind becoming very strong, the sixth sense becoming really strong. And when the sixth sense is very strong, when you close your eyes, you're not seeing any physical sights. Of course, that's much stronger. So the nimitta, when it's not distracted by the other five senses, the nimitta is the strongest. So obviously, with your eyes open, you can still see, especially sight nimitta, but it's not as strong and as beautiful as when the nimitta is just seen in the mind and the five senses have been subdued. Okay? We have to be, because that's what I'm saying. When you say be friendly to our minds, best during meditation, using simile of calling a friend out for a cup of coffee, do you mean we have to do kind of friendly to our thoughts, thinking? No, not the thoughts, thinking. They're kind of enemies. Just be kind to the mind before it even needs to think. Just dwell on whatever that comes to the mind. Don't push or cut them off, and slowly be aware and be kind to those thoughts, thinking, until they slowly be let off. Thank you for clarification. I think I see where you're coming from there. It's much better if you can sort of understand just how the silence of the mind is much more pure, is much more productive, and much better to be able to have some deep insights and even great nimittas. So don't celebrate like thinking. I know sometimes you may have some great thoughts, but all those great thoughts, that when you share them to somebody else, they're not that great after all. They kind of delude you. So I know years and years ago someone said, like that sculpture by Rodin of the thinker. I always remember he has to be holding his head up because his head is so heavy with all those thoughts inside. And sometimes people have great thoughts, they think, but after a while they go out of fashion. It's much better to have no thoughts and be silent, be peaceful, be still. Yeah, but much more peace, much more health, much more happiness, and also a much greater sense of joy. So be one who thinks little but knows a lot. Can you share with us how to develop samadhi? That's what I've been doing the last 7 days. Yeah, I have been doing that, but you may have come late or something. But this is how to develop that stillness, is actually give more importance to stillness. Go out there and listen to stillness. Listen to, again, there's so many sounds of birds, the rain on the roof, or things trickling, even the sound of people cooking. Can you really put that into words? I often was always interested in poetry, because sometimes there are some poets who can actually capture accurately what you can experience. And if I try and put that into words, it's impossible. How many of you had some deep meditations or interesting meditations, and you keep telling me it's just so hard to put it into words? And that's so true. Because, you're having experiences there which are profound, which most people don't have. And so we haven't developed the language for it. But every now and again, a poet can sometimes, I don't know, by luck or they've had the experience themselves, they can kind of capture that feeling, that emotion, not just the details, but everything else about it. And that's one of the reasons why, that William Blake, to see a world in a grain of sand, a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. To me, when I first read that, wow, that's teaching something very deep, very powerful, which most people don't understand. They think they might, but they haven't really been there. Dear Ajahn Brahm, my old friend. Dear Ajahn Brahm, my old friend from past life, next life, would you come back to serve again? I am. I'm going to answer the same question again and again and again. No, this life's enough. So if you come back next time, don't look for me. Okay. What is that story of the two monks who were best friends? You know this one, but it's nice saying something interesting, beautiful, and a little bit disgusting. These two friends as monks, they used to hang out together, best friends, and when they died, one of them, he's a good monk, he got reborn in the heaven realm. And as he was hanging out in the heaven realm, he started to wonder, where's my old friend gone? We were monks together, where is he? And so because he had the powers of a heavenly being, he scanned all the heaven realms looking for his friend. Couldn't find him anywhere there. And then he thought, has he been enlightened? Not reborn. He said, no, it can't be enlightened. So he started looking for him. The human realm. That's a very fortunate rebirth. Maybe he's gone straight back to the human realm. He looked in the human realm, couldn't find him. Surely not the animal realm. So he looked to the animal realm, the tigers and the monkeys and the dogs and the cats. Couldn't find him anywhere. He carried on looking, and then to his great shock, he finally found him. He'd been reborn as a worm in a pile of cow poo. Disgusting. He didn't know exactly what he'd done to be reborn like that, but nevertheless, he was a good old friend. And he thought, I can't leave my friend to be a worm in a pile of cow shit. Please excuse me for using that word, but it makes the story much more powerful. So he went down in front of the cow poo and he called out, hey worm, worm. And the little worm poked its head out of the cow poo. We were monks together in the previous life. Yeah, so what? Said the worm. Look, I've been reborn in heaven. It's beautiful up there, amazing food, very comfortable. And you've been reborn as a worm in a pile of poo. I can take you with me up to heaven. Come on. And the worm said, just hang on a moment. Up in this heaven you're talking about, is there any poo? Any feces? No, of course not. You don't have that filthy stuff up in heaven. Well, no poo, I'm not going. Because I like my cow poo. It's warm and fragrant and it's really delicious. I eat it for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I'm never... How many times do you eat rice every day? You eat rice for breakfast, lunch and dinner? Are you fed up with it yet? It's like the worm. The worm likes poo. Has it every day, 3 or 4 times a day. So they say, no poo, I don't go. And the heavenly being thought, well, if I could just show him what heaven was like, So he had like personal experience instead of just belief. I'm sure he would like it. So even though he was a heavenly being, he put his fingers inside the pile of cow poo. Imagine that was, say like when she was still alive, Queen Elizabeth, putting her hand inside. That's the sort of sacrifice you do for friendship. So he put his hand in there and grabbed the worm and tried to pull it out. And the worm didn't want to go. So wriggled and screamed, "Hey, I'm being worm napped. Leave me alone." Did you hear about the kidnap here in Wisdom Grove? The kidnapping? It wasn't a big thing because the kid woke up. Kidnapping. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to go. So he wriggled and squirmed, and because it was all squirmy and slippery, the worm managed to escape and go deeper into the pile of poo. And didn't stop the heavenly being. Put his hand in there again and tried to tug the worm out. The heavenly being knew if he only could show the worm once what it was like up in heaven, the worm would like to go with him. And the heavenly being could do that. The worm never wanted to go. And screaming and wriggling, he escaped every time. For 7 days, the heavenly being tried to get the worm out of the pile of dung. And the worm never wanted to go. And so just to escape, the heavenly being had to let him stay with his pile of poo. For 7 days I've been sitting here. And you don't want to go. Nothing, I can only just show you a nice jhana and convince you. Okay. Does being in a relationship work? Does being in a relationship with someone who's a once a year Buddhist and only goes to temple once a year affect my spiritual development? Makes me further away from the Dhamma. P.S. He does not keep all of the 5 precepts. Now, sometimes if you're in a relationship, you try your very best to care for someone, and someone, even if they're not very spiritual themselves, sometimes it's kind of testing you, just how devoted you are to things like the 5 precepts. So you can keep the 5 precepts, or even 8 precepts or more, but you don't have to force that onto anybody else. It's a tough thing to do, but I know people who have done that, and they're amazing beings. Their devotion, they made a commitment to that person years ago, and so I made that commitment, I'll fulfill it, but at the same time, make sure you don't just go to the temple once a year. And when you do are at home, make sure the temple is at home as well. They have a room there where you can meditate, a place there we can read some nice books. I remember this story, a true story, of this woman. I think she was Malaysian. She had an Australian husband. And the Australian never ever wanted to have anything to do with any religion. He just doubted all those religions, every one of them, including Buddhism. And so that one day she asked me, said, I'm sure he would be interested if he only found out what Buddhism was and what meditation was. What can I do to help him? And I gave her this advice. He would never come to talk to me. I gave her this advice. I said, buy one of my books. It's especially that book called Opening the Door of Your Heart. You've seen that one, haven't you? Yes. Yeah. And anyway, once you've brought it, take it home with you, and then tell your husband, this is your book, it's that kind of like a holy book, keep your hands off it. If you know Australian people, actually American people, most Westerners, if you're the wife and you tell your husband don't touch it, he's for sure going to touch it. So she was out shopping somewhere, she can't tell me what to read. And so he read it from cover to cover. And he started coming to our temple every week. That's how to do it. So, because your kindness and your wisdom, and that can actually change the person you have a relationship with and make him such a much better person. And that's how to really care for someone, to make him better. Dear Ajahn Brahm, when you re-establish the Bhikkhuni order in the Thai tradition, you found a lot of backlashes, and you were excommunicated from Wat Pah Pong. I have two questions. Some arguments in the traditional Theravada monastic that does not suggest bhikkhuni ordination, right? Some arguments in the traditional Theravada monastic that does not support bhikkhuni ordination. Why you need to become a bhikkhuni when 10 precepts is enough for you to enjoy the, what's it called? Something and attain enlightenment. To enjoy the jhanas and attain enlightenment. Examples, Sakayas and Siladhara. If that was the case, that just being a 10 preceptor was enough, why do Samaneras, that's male 10 preceptors, ordain as bhikkhus? Why did the Buddha even have bhikkhu ordination? Why did the Buddha encourage bhikkhuni ordination? A lot of times people haven't even read the suttas and actually seen what the Buddha said. If you read those suttas and see what he said, he went out of his way to make that his mission, in his last life, to make sure that he will not parinibbana until bhikkhuni ordination is there, and you have many, many, many of them. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. And even now, you have to invite me to come and teach a retreat here. And I've already got lots of other invitations to go all over the world to teach. I need help. Other good teachers to be able to teach the Dhamma. And that's one of the reasons why it doesn't make any sense to me to take half the population of this world and say you can't be bhikkhus, or the equivalent bhikkhunis. We need help to spread the Dhamma. There's so much interest from everybody throughout the whole world to be able to teach. And they can do so much good things. At the moment, for example, there was this European man, and he wanted to have some of my talks translated into Ukrainian, because there's so much suffering there. And I said yes, on one condition, they also translate the talks into Russian as well. So both sides of that conflict can actually hear the Dhamma. And that's really important. That's such a lot of work. We need, and that's actually how attractive it is. People really love these teachings, and they do work. they do sort of tend to solve problems instead of making more problems. Remember those stories I said, about, when that very intellectual Jesuit priest asked me, what's the Buddhist idea of God? And saying it in a way, remember my answer? Remember that? One of the first night's talks, or questions and answers. Where my friend, a Catholic abbot of a monastery, said that he thought everyone was searching for God. So what does Buddha search for? What does everybody want in this world? If you give it the right name, peace, respect, sort of love, to be loved, freedom, if you give it the right name, then everybody can actually join in and you solve problems in the world instead of making more problems. So those are the things I've seen these teachings be so powerful and help so much. It's one of the reasons why. Just, you want to have fairness and as many people as possible who can teach. And I just can't understand why not women. And it was traditional. They say, the Thai tradition, I remember somebody once said there was never any bhikkhunis in sort of the Thai tradition. And then I remember also people showing these photographs of murals in Wat Po in the middle of Bangkok. There were bhikkhunis. You know there were bhikkhunis because the way they were drawn, they had breasts. They were covered up, because they had robes on. You can see that they were sticking out, pushing the robe out. In other words, you can see the contents of their body. They weren't monks. They were bhikkhunis years and years and years ago over in Thailand. I don't know why it's kind of been subdued. But anyway, now that people know that bhikkhunis ordination is allowed, it's legitimate, and so many very senior monks are right behind it throughout the whole world. Make sense? Okay. So, hopefully, before I pass away, that many of you are bhikkhunis. At least you support bhikkhuni monasteries in Malaysia and the rest of the world. Next question. Some monastics also argue that the role to revive bhikkhuni ordination is only in the domain of Sammasambuddho. Okay, how would you want? Since the Theravada bhikkhuni order has died out completely, they said reviving the order will create schism within the Sangha. May I know what are your comments regarding this? There was the person who was the preceptor of the bhikkhuni ordination in Perth. She's a nun called Ayatata who lives over in California. And before the ordination of the bhikkhunis, she visited Thailand and she visited Ajahn Mahabua. And when the monks saw her that she visited, she said, well, you better leave quickly because soon it's going to be dark. We know there's another monastery close by where you can stay the night, but because you're a bhikkhuni, you cannot stay in this monastery, or because you claim to be bhikkhuni. And then she's about to get her stuff ready to go to a nearby monastery for women. And then they got the word from Ajahn Mahabua, who said, no, she must stay here. And everyone was so surprised. First of all, they don't know how he knew she was there or who she really was. But anyway, they had a meeting that evening, the whole Sangha, And she was sitting on the dais above. Sorry, the monks were sitting on the dais above, the lay people down below, and she was sitting with the lay people down below. And what really shocked everybody was when Ajahn Mahabodhi said, "No, you come up here and sit with us." And Ajahn Mahabodhi said, "You're not the same as us, but you're a bhikkhuni, so you belong up here." And that shocked everybody. Even Ajahn Mahabodhi recognized that she was a bhikkhuni and deserved that respect. And of course, at that time, Ajahn Mahabodhi was the teacher of the king of Thailand, and also he was so highly respected by most of the forest monks. So anyway, I'll let you consider that. Dear Ajahn, thank you for bringing that up, because I can't understand why the people just can't accept this and realize that bhikkhunis are here, they're growing, they're here to stay. And what a wonderful asset there is to Buddhism in this world. What or how is the correct way to exit from deep meditation? You don't do it, it just comes out yourself, it comes out naturally. In other words, you've been very, very still for a long time. And then just, how would you say it? Like the body sort of starts to turn itself off and on again. In other words, it starts moving. And also that shows you're just coming out of a deep meditation. You just watch, be mindful, but don't do anything. And then you come out very beautifully. Of course, you still have the afterglow of deep meditation, lots of happiness and bliss, clear mindfulness, and you just come naturally out of the deep meditations. But you never rush it. You allow it just to come out slowly. In case that you are got appointments, other things to do, you see if you can come out slowly and gently. One example which comes to my mind, there was this one gentleman, he was one of the top psychiatrists over in Perth, and he managed to get into a deep meditation, just doing an ordinary meditation class on a Saturday afternoon. And I could see that he's not coming out that easy. And so I was very happy that one of our senior members of our Buddhist society, a layperson, even though that I'd finished the session and I'd gone out to talk to people outside, she stayed with him, just sitting quietly close by. And when he did come out of his meditation, she took him to another room next door so he could actually come out sort of slowly. He'd already come out of the deep meditations, but he was still kind of not that ready to face the world. So I took him into another small room by the side and just slowly talked to him so he could make the transition gently. I remember Ajahn Chah telling me that sometimes it's like you're pouring like hot water into a cold glass and it can crack. It's never dangerous. I've never seen anybody get really hurt or harmed. It's very unpleasant if you have to do something very fast. You may know that one of my privileges as a monk, I'm very happy to have done this, was that I spent 6 months in solitude. For 6 months I never saw another human being, I never spoke to another human being. In a nice hut, someone would put my food in a bowl, in a box. They'd leave it there at a certain time, and I'd walk there afterwards and find the food, all offered, and then I would eat it, wash the bowl, and then put the bowl back again in the box. And they would replace it the next day with more food, and that's how I survived. And they knew I was alive. because the food was disappearing. For 6 months I never saw anybody. I never spoke to anybody. And that was just blissful. You really were a hermit. And then afterwards, though, when I came off that 6-month retreat, one of the other senior monks came down to speak to me, find out how I was. Some of the other monks were disappointed that I hadn't gone crazy. They thought my eyes would be really big. I wouldn't have shaved my hair. But I was just kind of blissed out. But then, of course, because I was senior monk, everybody wanted to know how I was and what happened. And some of the talks after that retreat were very, very powerful. But I do remember really not wanting to talk. You've been silent for 6 months. Now you had to talk. And so I had a headache for 3 days. It never went away for 3 days. Just kind of forcing myself for my brain to work again. Other than that, it was brilliant. One of the things I did notice, if you don't talk to human beings, you're like a hermit. You get so close to the animal world. The big snakes visited me. There was a family of eagles. And I would watch them every afternoon as they took the one kid, teaching him, I imagine it was a him, I'm not sure, teaching him how to fly. It was really fun, because you're like in a different world. It's like a hermit. You weren't lonely, you had solitude. Dear Ajahn Brahm, are bodhisattvas enlightened or not yet enlightened beings? In Theravada, in the Suttas and the Vinaya, always called unenlightened bodhisattvas, beings who are going to be Buddhists later on. But if you are enlightened, the bodhisattva has to pass away at the end of the life. Cannot, and that's not get reborn at all, disappear, parinibbana. And that's the only thing which can happen. So sometimes there's some confusion there, but always in the Pali canon you always see unenlightened bodhisattva. If not yet enlightened, then at what stage of sainthood are they? Thank you, Ajahn. Sometimes not at sainthood at all. If they were at sainthood, in other words, at least a stream winner, then they wouldn't so encourage other people to put off being enlightened. There's plenty of teachers in this world, enough anyway, who can express the Dhamma, teach the Dhamma. But if you are going to teach the Dhamma, then should you know what you're talking about? And if you are, it means you're a stream winner. If you know what you're talking about and you're a stream winner, you've only got at most 6 more lifetimes left. Did I say that right? 6 or 7? 6. Okay, let's have a democracy. How many more lifetimes does a stream winner have? If you're a stream winner this life, how many more lifetimes?
6.
Oh. Yeah, you're correct, because this one counts as 1.
Yeah.
Next one is 6. I thought I could trick you. When we do walking meditation, do we have to walk very slowly? No, you can do fast walking, slow walking, but keep it natural. Over in Jhana Grove, the retreat center next to Bodhinyana Monastery, we had like an insight meditation group were doing a retreat. So they would always do the slow walking meditation. And they would always wear the white clothes. And, you know what's coming. There were some visitors, and so the visitors asked, and it's okay if we just have a look at your retreat center, we won't make any noise, we'll just have a look, and we won't interfere with anybody. So I gave them permission as long as you're quiet. So they went over there, and about 10 minutes later they came back, because their kid was just really excited. And he said, Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahm, you know you're in big trouble. I said, why? The zombies. I saw them with my own eyes. They were wearing these white clothes and they were walking so slowly. We had to leave straight away, otherwise they would eat our brains. I don't know too much about zombies, but they did become very popular. And to this day, we call anyone we see doing the slow walking meditation the zombie. But no, seriously, sometimes it gets slow because you're so mindful, there's so much to see when you're doing walking. And I think I mentioned that one of the places I did walking meditation as a young monk was a hall, and it was probably maybe a little bit less than this length. And it just took me half an hour to get from one end to the other and then half an hour to get back again. It wasn't forcing it, it was just so much happening, which we're aware of when you're just walking. It was fascinating. And so you just slow down. But please, if you are doing walking meditation in a hall where everyone else is walking as well, you do it sort of parallel to one another. I do know that sometimes people, they have this like competition. Who can walk the slowest? It's kind of the ego gets involved. You say, well, I'm usually very slow, and somebody doesn't. Well, they try to prove. But it means that you have to go really slow too. Have you ever done that in the evening? Because after you meditated, and then I made that resolution as a young stupid monk, I would never be I'd always be the last to leave the meditation hall. So when anybody else who'd done a formal meditation bowed, most people left. There was always 2 or 3 would keep hanging out and then meditating. And then so I would carry on meditating as well. And after 15 minutes, I'd open one eye. He's still meditating. Who does he think he is? And so I had to carry on meditating too. And I had to be the last one, because that was my resolution. That really hurt sometimes. Total stupid resolution. We don't compare in meditation. Okay, another teacher said to walk at a natural pace, correct. So how to know which instruction to follow? Follow both of them. The natural pace is often quite slow. Sometimes you get faster. Just ask your body, how do you want to do walking right now? Slow, fast, in between. And ask the body for instructions. A lot of times that's what I do. I ask my mind, now what do you want to do? Because I know my mind, I'm a friend to it. And so sometimes it says, let's do some loving kindness meditation. And when I ask my mind, it always gives me really good advice. How long do you want to meditate for? Let's see. And then sometimes you're starting to come out of your meditation. You ask someone, do you want to come out now? And sometimes it says yes. And somebody says no. Let's go back in. This is like learning how to be mindful by asking questions of your own mind and body. On a retreat, I've often said that, in the middle of the retreat, sometimes you're very tired. So you ask your body, do you want to have a rest now? Or do you want to walk? Or have a drink? Ask your body. My body always gives me good advice. And sometimes it's weird advice, I admit this. That sometimes you've had a good sleep at night and you're meditating, you get some spot and torpor. And then I ask my body, You've had a good sleep last night. Do you really want to take a rest? And sometimes my body almost screams at me, yes! And I know it's a good choice, because then I go into my room or my cave in Bodhinyana Monastery, lay down, and you go to sleep straight away. It's as if like, my body knows that something's going on with my health, and it needs that extra sleep. And then when I wake up after 45 minutes or 50 minutes, you feel just so healthy and so full of energy. It's like my body is telling me, you are almost getting sick there. You lay down and go to sleep, and then I will do the rest as a body. And it does. That's why I've never got COVID. All those years when people were getting sick, I never did. And even over in Thailand, there was 1 year, all the monks were getting diarrhea and other sort of diseases of the guts because the food was not clean. And I just made a resolution, okay, I'm not going to get diarrhea. I did that for 1 year. It worked. It was kind of weird. And all the monks in the line, they said, I had a terrible night, I was on the toilet all night. And the second one, I said, yeah, me too. And I said, yeah, I had terrible diarrhea last night. They came to me and said, I didn't. They weren't happy with me. But it's great being able to do that, just having a resolution to be mindful of your body, sensitive to it. It's amazing how powerful that can be. So anyway, that's what I would suggest. Dear Ajahn, thank you for your teachings. You're welcome. May I ask how to have metta to our past and our future? There's 2 questions here. How to have metta to our past and our future? How to open the door of our heart to them? I often find it very hard to embrace and accept what I have done wrong in the past, and also often feel scared at embracing what will happen in the future. First of all, it does help if you use a little statement which you find in Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, and all the people are like actors on it. So sometimes I look at my past, I don't blame people, they're almost acting out, speaking out, performing like a script. They've been conditioned too to behave the way they did. So sometimes I look upon that, they had really no choice, the way they talked and the way they behaved. A lot of the time they thought they were doing what was right, but it caused so much pain and difficulties for many people, including myself. And so that means that you don't take it as if they're deliberately nasty people. It's much easier to forgive them. And as for the future, I keep on saying the future is made now. And so you cannot predict the future. It's impossible. There's no way you can know what's going to happen next. Okay, funny story. Ajahn Chah, when somebody came up to him and said, Ajahn Chah, can you please read the lines on the palm of my hand to tell my future? And Ajahn Chah said, no. He said, well, come on. I help you. I give you food every day. Like if you asked me to do that for you, Tree, you cook me such wonderful food twice a day when I'm here. Haven't I got gratitude for you? Of course I've got gratitude for you. So you asked me, come on, read the lines on the palm of my hand. So Ajahn Chah did that. It's the only time Ajahn Chah has ever read the palms on somebody's hand to tell the future. And apparently that when he started reading the lines on the palm, he started tracing them really slowly. You can't make mistakes, you've got to do it carefully. And then every now and again he said, Oh. This man was getting so wound up, so excited, and he couldn't wait, to find out, what Ajahn Chah had seen. And then when Ajahn Chah had finished, he said, "I never tell lies. What I've seen, I will report truthfully to you." "Yeah, I know. What have you seen?" He said, "Your future, sir." Yes. "Is uncertain." And Ajahn Chah wasn't wrong. I remember going to Hong Kong. There's one street in Hong Kong where the fortune tellers ply their trade. When I went there, I saw all the fortune tellers. They were all thin, and they never looked healthy. And I thought, look, if I would never trust a thin, badly dressed fortune teller. If they can't tell their own fortune, they can't tell yours. Okay, so that's for the future. Accept what you've done wrong. People don't do things wrong. They make mistakes. So mistakes, that everybody makes mistakes, that's what we learn from. If you never made mistakes, you would stay where you are and you wouldn't grow at all. When you make mistakes in meditation, that's where you learn. You don't get embarrassed and say, "I'm a terrible meditator." So you had a problem there. Let's learn from it and grow from it. And then you can improve as a human being. That's why the Buddha always said, we don't have punishment in the Buddhist Sangha, or in Buddhism in general. If you make a mistake, please acknowledge it. Let somebody know. And once they know, then no punishment. Learn not to do it again. And that's it. So that's growth in the Aryan discipline. And that's a good example of when I was learning the Thai language and I needed some soap, a wapapong. Those were days where it was very basic and Ajahn Chah wasn't that famous yet. So he had a big water jar, which people come and bring toothpaste or soap, and they put it in the jar, big jar. And then when I went out there to ask for it, I had to ask him for it, and then he would put his hand in the jar and get something for me, whatever was there. So when I asked for some soap in Thai, the word for soap is sabu. I said sapo. It's very close. But then he looked at me, sapo? Yeah, to wash. And you all know what sapo means now, don't you? Pineapple. So that's what Ajahn Chah heard. Can I have some pineapple? What for? To wash. Well, I thought I said soap. And he almost fell off his chair laughing. But he used that for the next 4 or 5 days. When visitors came and I was around him, he said, "See these Westerners, they're so advanced. Over in London, they don't wash with soap, they wash with pineapple, far more advanced." And that's how I learned the difference. Never punishment, but everyone had a good laugh. A lot of times when you did make a mistake, you caused so much humour to your teacher. That's why he had lots of Western monks around. We entertained him. You can imagine so. Can you teach us how to apply vipassana in Anapanasati? What is vipassana? It's actually seeing insights, and to be able to do that, it happens naturally. The deeper you get, in the breath meditation, the more you see. You get one of the most important stages, that I keep on repeating, is to get the piti sukha, the joy and happiness, along with the breath. That's a sign that your mind is getting some power. You're seeing deeper into things which people don't usually see. Sometimes the way the Buddha described it, like vipassana, is actually having a lake which has become still. And then you can look above the lake and you can see right to the very bottom of the lake. You see even the little pebbles on the bottom and the fish swimming in that lake. That's like only through stillness can you see things clearly. So that's how you do vipassana. It happens naturally. You don't do it. It occurs. You don't even do stillness. If you try to do stillness, you're still messing around with the water. It never becomes calm. So through the meditation, you let it happen. You become the silent observer. You're not doing anything. You try and do as less as possible. And then you find the mind becomes clear, peaceful. You can see what's going on inside. Does that make sense to you? Can you do the guided meditation soonest, as the last day may be too late for us? No, be patient. Can you teach us metta meditation? We have too much anger. Yeah, because you want to do it now. The loving kindness will come. You know that sometimes you think the loving kindness meditation is different than even breath meditation. You can't do breath meditation without kindfulness. In other words, metta is right there anyway. Once I gave this simile of this couple. They were good meditators. One was called Sam, and the other one, his partner, was called Vi. So Sam and Vi, they lived together, and they wanted to go for a walk up Meditation Mountain. And they took their two dogs with them. One of the dogs was called Metta, and the other dog was called Anaparna. So those two dogs went with Sam and Vi when they went up Meditation Mountain. Sam went up Meditation Mountain because he enjoyed the peace. It was so still up there. Vi, she had one of these amazing cameras with all the filters, and they took incredible photographs of the views up in Meditation Mountain. And as they started walking, even halfway up, you could actually see so much of the universe around you and the lay of the land. So Vi was taking some amazing inside pictures. Sam was so still and peaceful. He enjoyed the peace, but he could also have eyes. He could see the view too. Just like Vi could actually enjoy the peace. And as for Metta, the dog, the more she climbed up Meditation Mountain, the more happy she was, the more she wagged her tail. She wouldn't bark because she didn't want to disturb the peace. She enjoyed the peace too. And as for the other dog, Anaparna, Anaparna was disappearing. You know, you could almost like see through her. That's how just she was vanishing in front of their eyes. And when they got to the top of Meditation Mountain, oh, it was so still up there. The Sam was just almost crying how beautiful the stillness was. But through those tears he could also see the view. The whole world laid out before him, so easy to see. But he also was enjoying the loving kindness up on top of mountain called Meditation Mountain. Vi, she was taking all these photographs, but silently, because she didn't want to disturb the peace, and she was also so full of love on top of Meditation Mountain. I met with a dog. It was like running round in circles, but silently, like dogs do when they're just really blissed out. And Anapanna was gone. Indeed, meditation at first vanishes. So that was my simile of Sam, Atta, his surname, Vipassana was her surname. Metta and Anapanna, the two dogs. Make sense? Okay, good. They always go together. Oh my goodness. How many is in here? 28. Okay, 8 o'clock now. That's easy. Finish those. No trouble. Ajahn, who told us to keep nimitta still, but how to do so? Just do what you're told. Next question. How to keep nimitta still is don't try to keep it still. Try and keep the one which is watching still. In here, not out there. That tended to work for me. Anyway, sooner or later it will become still. Can you please elaborate on not me, not I, not myself? Thanks, Asada. I can't. It's not mine. That is what the Buddha kept on saying again and again and again. Not me, not mine, not myself. So just keep on remembering that. Everything you ever do, say, your body, your mind, do you really think it's yours? If it was yours, if you really did own the mind, why does your mind keep misbehaving? Not doing what you ask it to? If it really was you, and you try to tell your husband or your wife to behave, your kids to behave, do you behave? Why? Not me, nor mine, nor the self. So you like that traveller in the bus with no driver. It will go here, go there in this life, but you don't complain. And then you find it usually stays longer in the beautiful territories and has no business in the difficult territories. But no wanting. No, not wanting. And you become really peaceful. Have a wonderful time. Nowadays, many people are very much into believing numerology, using personal data for calculation, and wearing the needed stones according to the needs which are claimed to be blessed. There are many testimonials from the wearers of the effectiveness. What is your views on this? Should never ask a mathematician about numerology. But you know that there's many people have different beliefs. And some people believe in like astrology and horoscopes. Do you believe in astrology and horoscopes? Have you had your horoscope taken? Sorry? Yeah, astrology. You know that I'm very well respected and also have got some disciples who are reasonably wealthy. And one of them once was so frustrated with me. Ajahn Brahm, you've helped me. I want to get you a present for your birthday. And I said, I don't need anything. Just go and give a donation to a charity or something. And he never did that. Instead, on the birthday celebration, he came up to me in public and said, I took the initiative. I found out the date of your birth, the time of your birth, the place of your birth, and I paid a lot of money to get one of the best astrologers in the world to do your horoscope. May I read it out? So I thought, okay, read it out. And so he said, he was Malaysian from Malacca, this guy. No, it wasn't you. And he said, so this is the authentic horoscope. He said the person who'd done it. But for someone who was born, it was in West London in 7th of August 1951, I think about 5:30 in the afternoon. And he said, the following year, which is going to come, will be an excellent year for you for romance. He was wrong. I'm still a monk. So after that horoscope, I never believed in horoscopes anymore. And like even just numerology, you can't predict your future. I remember somebody once, they did horoscopes of some famous teachers through the world in many traditions, big gurus, and they found out that the horoscopes did have a tiny influence, but the most thing which influenced them was how they behaved and how they practiced. It's what you do, the choices you make, rather than you're put in some channel which you can't get out of. So it doesn't really matter what the horoscope says. And there's also the one other case which just came to my mind. There was this, I'll pick that later, this Sri Lankan professor, I think Professor Jaitilake. He was, if you're a Buddhist, Theravada, you may know him. But he did such amazing scholarly work on Theravada Buddhism. But he also had a belief in horoscopes. He went to one of these places in Sri Lanka, which were famous, for these oracles. And the oracle told him that you will die at a ripe old age. And he believed that so much that later on when he started getting sick, he never went to see the doctor until it got too late. And he died middle-aged, quite young. And that was, many other Sri Lankan scholars told me that story because he believed 100% in astrology, that he never took the right courses of action, and that's why he died young. There's a kind of a tragedy. Ajahn, you told us about the lady who experienced first jhana, but what was the experience like? Sometimes it's like blissing out. You're not quite sure what's happened, so you go inside, you can't hear, you can't see, you can't feel the body. Blissing deeply inside and enjoying these moments so much. And then when you come out, so the five senses turn on again. So that's all I can say at this time, but the bliss is like something you've never experienced before. So then that guy said, much even better than heroin. I've never experienced heroin, but that must be just incredibly powerful. Also, what is the name of the sutta you mentioned? Chula Mahasatipatthana Sutta? No. It was, I think, the Mahamalokya Putta Sutta. I think that was the one. It's Majjhima 64. The 64th Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. 64. 8 squared, a good number. Numerology. Can you repeat the 8 Noble Paths? Your version. letting go, right motivation. No. Okay, the Eightfold Path, the first one is right view, which includes things like there's no one inside here, anicca dukkha anatta. The second factor of the Eightfold Path, samma sankappa, right motivation. Three parts to that: motivations from letting go, motivations of kindness, motivations of gentleness. The third of the Eightfold Path is a right speech, the fourth right action, the fifth right livelihood. That's the virtue. If you've got the right view, then the motivation follows that view. You're not trying to attain things, but you're trying to let go of things. You're never cruel, you're always kind. And that's where the precepts come from. And the fifth is that right livelihood. The sixth factor of the Eightfold Path is the right, I always call it right renunciation instead of right effort. I'm still not happy with that translation, but right effort I'm even less happy with. It's not you doing something. But anyway, the seventh is the right mindfulness, and the eighth is the stillness, the jhanas. Hope that's okay for you. But you can get that in a book. What is the difference between mind and citta? Basically, nothing. Because that's one of the reasons why sometimes the Buddha, when he was teaching, would acknowledge people say these words and they're talking about the same thing. And so one of the sayings is the eighth of the 63 wrong views in the first sutta, which Buddha gave, the Brahmajala Sutta. That's not the first gave, which is the first sutra in the Digha Nikaya, the first book of suttas. It said, that which people call mind or consciousness or citta, to say that it's permanent, not going to disappear, it's going to last as long as the universe itself, that's the wrong view. But the reason I said that was the way the Buddha put it, that people call these things so many different terms, but that's usually what people call it, like your inner consciousness, or your mind, or your mano, or vijnana, or citta. So people do not use these words like lawyers use them, but you use them generally. So you take account of that. So that's why mind and citta, people could write essays about how they're different, but the way most people use them is they're pretty similar. In your latest book, you mention about karma. It's not what you experience, it's how you're experiencing it. Any stories to share to elaborate on the above? Thank you. Basically, no. Reason is because if it's in my latest book, I don't know which one you're talking about, but the latest books are not written by me. What happens, I give a talk, and they're transcribed, and they're tidied up, and then they're printed, and my name's on them. I said it, but didn't write it. So, I don't know what I said. It's not what you experience. Karma, it's a result of karma, is what you're experiencing. But how you're experiencing it, of course it's how you're experiencing it as well, that's part of it. In other words, it doesn't matter just what life gives you, it's how you're going to perceive it. You've got a choice there. Good example, that someone gives you a frog. How are you going to enjoy that or not enjoy it? Can you not enjoy it? Can you enjoy it? Have you got a choice? I know that sometimes I say they give you a frog, Sometimes in the West, they have these biscuits shaped like a frog, covered in chocolate. Would you enjoy that? So why do you say no, you don't like frogs? Sometimes it depends how it's cooked. And have you seen some of the stuff which is in Chinese food?
Yes.
One of the things which I was always taught when I first went to Thailand, whatever you do not ask what's in the curry. Then you can eat it. Okay, that's good enough. Oh no, okay. These are the ones I haven't answered yet. Dear Ajahn, thank you for your sharing. If the choices that we perceive to have, if the choices that we perceive to have the decisions that we thought we made are actually what are meant to happen, as we don't and can't control anything. You don't control anything, but you do have something called choice. Do you? That's what came to my mind. How do you make choices? You make good choices or bad choices? Mostly in your life. How do you make the best choices? The best choices can be made by tossing a coin. Tossing a coin, yes, I can't do that because I don't have any coins. As a monk doesn't have any money. But this was the case at Oslo University when somebody asked me, in the audience, the young lady put her hand up and said, I've got a really important choice to make in life. Don't tell jokes, please. This is really important. Can you please help me? How do I make the choice? And you've got to be very careful as a monk, because sometimes they say, well, let's make it more easy to understand. Suppose the choice was whether you're trying to decide whether to accept the proposal to get married to the boy next to you. She went red in the face. I picked it up straight away. The boy next to her had asked her to marry her. She had to make that decision. And she was so embarrassed. She never do that, Ajahn Brahm. But then, holding her head in her hands and going bright red, because she was Norwegian, so they're very pale skin, so when she goes red, they really go red. And then I said, if you need to make a decision like that, shall you get married? It's going to affect your whole life. Then toss a coin. And I said, heads I marry him, tails I don't. Toss it, what does it come up as? Okay, if it comes up as tails I don't. How do you feel? Do you feel terrible? Yeah. And so you were saying, let's do 2 out of 3. How do you feel? Because what tossing the coin does, when the decision's made for you, but you can change it, it tells you what you really want to do. That's all the tossing the coin it does, reveals how you feel deep inside. And that insight is usually the most reliable, how you feel. So, which one of these lovely, fluffy bears do you want to bid for at auction tomorrow?
Yes.
The other side. So toss a coin and find out which one it is and how you feel. Making decisions like that, you're actually getting aware, a device to get you aware of what you really want to do. Not what you should do, but how you feel you want to do it. Dear Ajahn, as a swimmer, I swim continuously for 30 minutes, listening to my breath in the water. My mind is empty. After the swim, I feel refreshed, nothing else. Is that jhana? No, it's relaxation. If you could get out of the water and sit comfortably somewhere and just allow that refreshment of your body and mind just to stay perfectly still, then you could use that relaxation to go deeper in meditation. That's possible. But if that was jhana, you just keep on swimming. And if it was in the ocean, you might, I don't know, be in Indonesia by now. Ajahn, you told us to rid of the 5 mental hindrances before we can reach jhana. Actually, that when they disappear, that's when jhana happens. However, you didn't inform us how to get rid of the 5 hindrances. It's by getting jhana. It's like a catch-22. In other words, how do you get rid of the 5 hindrances? By practicing right view, right motivation, right speech, action, livelihood, and right effort, right mindfulness. Those 7 first factors of the Eightfold Path, they support the limiting of the 5 hindrances, the weakening of them, and then when they get very weak, then the jhanas happen. And that's actually a powerful answer to a good question. Is reading and understanding sutta necessary for the spiritual path of Nibbana? Not every sutta, but at least some of the suttas. In the time of the Buddha would just give some simple instructions to people. They became the suttas afterwards. But not every monk or nun in that time learned every sutta that ever was or ever would be. They just learned a few important ones. And that was enough for them. So it's not just learning the suttas, or learning most of them, it's like practicing. And sometimes you have a few of the suttas which really mean something to you and inspire you. When I did my 6-month retreat alone, the one which I chose was the Anatta Sutta, the second sermon of the Buddha, of non-self. And that meant so much to me. I just chanted it every day, reflected on it for most of the day, as well as meditating. And that really helped enormously. Anatta Sutta, Sutta on non-self. Powerful. Are there a few key suttas which are absolutely necessary? Not absolutely necessary, but which are really helpful to you. You read a few of them and it's like, this one really just gets to me. And then they mean a lot. And they really help. Dear Ajahn Brahm, how does the mind observe itself, e.g. the nimitta and angry thought? Thank you. This is the nature of any one of the senses. It is aware of the objects which come into its realm. In other words, if somebody walks in that door, I can see them. If somebody says anything, I can hear you. In the mind, when something, if you've got all the other 5 senses, not paying too much attention to them, they're subdued, then just what occurs in them is what the mind knows. And the mind observes itself. It doesn't kind of observe itself. The mind just is like bright or peaceful or moving, and this is how you see it. This is how the eye sees itself. Not like looking in the mirror or anything, but you can see things, and what you do is you know you've just seen something. That statement by Descartes, I think, therefore I know, is totally wrong. Because they don't have the fact that if you think, it's only afterwards you know you thought. To say that more accurately, I think, therefore I knew I thought. That's more Buddhist. How does the mind observe itself? Well, that's how it observes itself. It sees what it just knew. It becomes an object. Once in a very long while, I experienced a sleep paralysis. During the sleep paralysis, I find myself struggling to move as if a heavy object is resting on my body. What causes sleep paralysis? I think that psychologists and psychiatrists have said it is just usually, again, sleep paralysis. You've been asleep, or the senses have kind of turned off, and they haven't fully turned on again yet. They're like in between. And the way to overcome that, if you want to overcome it, is don't struggle. If you struggle, you get even more stuck in that state. Have I mentioned to you before on how to come out of deep meditation? The same with sleep paralysis. Just relax. You're perfectly safe. And then you do a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. At the end of the countdown, I'll come out of the paralysis. Give your mind some kindness and care and patience. Give it time to come out. And it usually works very well. Dear Ajahn. Oh dear. Am I dear? No, I'm pretty cheap. What is bliss? What is blissed out? Is it just a state of mind or a feeling or an emotion? It is Vedana, the second of the khandhas, or what do you call it, the components of existence. It's very beautiful and very high. There's many different types of happiness or bliss or pleasure or whatever. Some are dangerous, some are perfectly benign, some are very deep and last a long time. But we usually use the word bliss or ecstasy. I don't use the word ecstasy anymore because that was given to the name of a tablet, which is a drug. I don't think they have a drug called bliss, do they yet? So we keep it for meditation. It's just when you're incredibly happy. It's such a positive state of vedana, of experience, that it keeps you still and so satisfied. I never emphasize this, but during any of the jhanas, when you ask a person, what were you experiencing? Usually the answer is bliss, different types of bliss. And it's so satisfying to stay there for long periods of time. Is it just nothing, not happy or not unhappy? No, it's much better than that. Just as is it okay not to be blissed, just watching? You can if you want to be, but if you know what the bliss was and it's there for you, why not? Don't you like being happy? Was the Buddha happy? Don't you like to be like the Buddha? Take a choice. But don't be stupid, the bliss is there. Let yourself go into it. When we have experienced vanishing body during meditation, is there a specific common exit entry point? Is it different in every occasion, meditator? When it first happens, you're not really so concerned about how it happens or where it just happens, and you're enjoying it. Later on, if you want to become more expert on it, you will find that the last of the senses which disappear, for the meditator, is usually the body. That's why we use the breath. When the breath turns into bliss, becomes a mental object, and that's how the five senses vanish. If you didn't have the happiness, there'd be nothing really to drag you away from the body. I remember one of those experiences of jhana a long time ago, that it was like you were on the edge. This monk I know was right on the edge of jhanas, but it's kind of scary the first few times. But then it's almost you can feel the pleasure, the bliss is so powerful. It kind of draws you in. You say, no, it's too much for me. Why not? No, this is scary. You don't have a conversation like that, that's just how you feel. And then after a while you say, what the hell, I'm going for it. and many people have similar experiences. It's the bliss and the happiness kind of draws you in and overcomes all any fear you have. And it's also a part of my job is to tell you it's perfectly safe. You have nothing to be afraid of. You just get wise and you get healthy as well. Those come with side effects, the beautiful health you experience afterwards. And your insight gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay, can you please enlighten us on the Buddha statue facing? What's the significance, meaning of facing east? Thank you. It doesn't have much of a meaning at all. It was just that in one sutta, the only place I've seen it is when Ajatasattu, the new king, was taken to see the Buddha in the Bamboo Grove Monastery, the Welawana Monastery, outside of Rajagaha, by his doctor, Jivika. And so this is actually where I use these symbols, where I get them from. The king hadn't seen the Buddha before, a new king, and the chariot took the king as far as chariots could go, and then he had to get off the chariot and start walking in his amazing sandals. And he was a bit scared because it was a bit dark, but the chariot couldn't go any further. So he walked as far as he could walk to the hall, and then Jivaka said, "You've got to take your slippers off before you enter the hall." So he took his slippers off and then went inside the hall. And in that simile, or in that story in the suttas, then Ajatasattu asked, which one is the Buddha? Because there's lots of monks in that hall. He said, he's the one sitting against that pillar facing east. And ever since that time, it's the only story I've ever heard or seen why the Buddha has to always face east. A Buddha statue, because the Buddha was facing east. But one of the reasons also I like that story was because the Buddha didn't look any different than any other monk. It was just where he was sitting, what way he was facing, made him look different. But one of the other stories which I like, in the suttas, there was many of the Buddha's disciples, after they were enlightened, they moved all over India. One of them moved to the west coast of India, and he was an inspiring teacher, so he got disciples himself. And so one of the Buddha's chief disciple, thought it'd be a wonderful thing to go and visit the Buddha while he was still alive. So he started walking from the west coast of India to the Ganges Valley where the Buddha was. And in those days you had to walk, and it was easy to survive because there's so many people. If you had a bald head, brown robe, you were an ascetic, doesn't matter what religion you were, you'd always be given hospitality and food. So we came to a village and there was a workshop there, and the owner of the workshop said, yeah, you can stay in the workshop tonight, there's enough straw there, and we'll feed you in the morning. And so, he got himself settled, and then a few minutes later, another monk came in and he said, "Oh, no, I've come a bit later. It's okay if I stay here as well?" I said, "Yes." And so the two of them, instead of actually sleeping, they started meditating. And they meditated all night together. And in the morning, so the monk who came in second said, "You're a really good meditator. You've meditated all night. Now, who's your teacher?" He said, "Oh, my teacher is this venerable who is a chief disciple of the Buddha. That's why I'm here. I'm going to try and find the Buddha to pay respects to him." And the young monk said to the monk who came in second, "Who's your teacher?" And the second monk said, "I don't have a teacher. I'm the Buddha." He bowed as quickly as he could. "I'm sorry I never paid proper respect to you." And I love that story because sometimes people thought the Buddha looked so different than anybody else. A lot of times didn't look that different at all. Sometimes I mess around as well. That story, I was over in Vietnam at a conference. When I go to conference, one of the things I enjoy going to conferences, I get to listen to other people give talks. Nearly always, I'm the only one who gives talks. Over in here, I've never listened to anybody else give a talk. Just listen to myself giving a talk every day, 2 or 3 times a day. So anyway, I was sitting in the back, waiting for another monk to give a talk, and this Vietnamese monk came and sat next to me. He wanted to practice his English. So he said, "Oh, no, where are you from?" I said, "I am from Australia." "Oh, Australia?" "Yeah, Australia." And he said, I'm just saying how he said it. He said, "In Australia, do you know a famous monk called Ajahn Brahm?" That's what he said. And I decided to have some fun. I shouldn't do this, but I know my character. I said, "Yes, I do. He's a very good monk. Yeah, he's very well known here in Vietnam." And then I couldn't hold myself any longer. I said, "I am Ajahn Brahm." That's what he said. He screamed. I enjoy that. But one of the things which I always make sure that I don't travel with an entourage. People say when you go, say, to Malaysia, how many people go with you in the aircraft? And you say a couple of hundred. Those are other passengers. No, how many attendants? When I came in Singapore Airline, there's about a dozen at least. Flight attendants. Why do I need attendants? You go to the airport and they don't need anybody to carry your baggage. You carried my baggage from KLIA, Victor, just a little bag. And people are always making sure you have enough water or cups of tea or food if you're having a lunch on the plane. What do you need attendants for? So I have the flight attendants, and they do an excellent job. So that's why you always travel by yourself. And I remember seeing one other senior monk, he's still alive. That's Ajahn Tui, forest monk, he lives over in Nong Khai. He's very, very old now, a disciple of Ajahn Mahabua. I remember meeting him at Perth Airport. And as soon as he came through the immigration, I thought, yeah, he's a good monk. All he had was his bowl and bag, hardly anything else. And also travelling alone. That's how the Buddha used to travel, alone. It's much quieter. Okay, all these questions. I'm only quarter of an hour, that's easy. In the metta chant, the line, whether weak or strong, emitting none. What does emitting none mean? It doesn't mean emitted bhikkhunis. That doesn't mean what it means. Why is it that when we do the metta chant or metta meditation, we leave out some people? I think I mentioned when I had that scrub typhus, the nurse who every day stabbed me in the backside. She was doing it, to try and heal not the infection, whatever it was cauing that fever. They never knew what it was at first. But I was young, I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing, but I just naturally, did loving kindness meditation, but always omitting her. May all beings be happy and well, but not that one. Or not that nurse. Of course you have to include everybody. Omitting that, even people who have hurt you. Why they did it, I don't know. But you try and include them. Remember I used to teach in prisons, not just in Western Australia, but many prisons. And I remember just one of the prisoners inside that jail, when I started talking to him about loving kindness and not omitting anybody, he said, no, you have to omit some people. They don't deserve loving kindness. That's what he said. I said, I don't agree. So we had a test, a challenge. I said, in all the people inside this prison, who's the person you hate the most? He didn't hesitate. He said, this senior prison officer. And he gave me an example. Because this prison farm was kind of remote, there was no public transport there, some of the prisoners, they were hardly ever visited by the relations. It was just too hard to get to. Then apparently one day, one of the prisoners, his wife, managed to get a lift to the prison. And this prison officer who was in charge that day saw her, noticed her, and straight away sent this prisoner, who hardly ever got visits, to the other end of the prison farm, where there was no way of contacting him on some sort of errand. So when this guy's wife checked in, they had the announcements on the tannoy system. Will prisoner so-and-so come to the visitors area? You have a visit. He never turned up because he couldn't hear, from the place he'd been sent to. And for a couple of hours they were trying to find him. And when they eventually did find him, the prison officer knew where he was all the time, but didn't say. When they did find him, I'm terribly sorry, your visit's over. It was just nasty, that's all. So, we had our candidates. And so this prisoner's job, he was quite a trusted prisoner. His job was to serve tea and coffee and anything else, to this senior prison officers. I said, great. Now I want you to make that cup of tea or cup of coffee with loving kindness. Find out what he really likes. And even biscuits or sandwiches, anything. And be so kind when you give him that tea or coffee. Here you are, sir. Hope you enjoy it. Is there enough honey in it, or would you prefer milk or sugar? And all the time the prison officer would absolutely ignore him, wouldn't say anything. And this went on for weeks. And every week when I went there, I'd always ask him, any breakthrough yet? He said, no, it's a waste of time. I found out he really likes these type of biscuits, and I found out there's a bit of an extra supply somewhere. So I gave him these biscuits. I know he likes them. He ate them all, but he never said thank you, never said anything, just totally ignoring me. I said, keep on going. It took 3 months before we got our breakthrough. He gave him this cup of coffee with that cream instead of milk or something. I said, I hope you like it. He said, it's cream. And the prison officer went, Granted. And that went all around the prison. I was winning, but I hadn't won yet. It took another couple of weeks. And this prisoner found this sandwich or something which this prison officer really liked and offered it to him and said, I hope you enjoy the sandwich, sir. And the prison officer turned around and said, thank you. That didn't just go around calm the prison farm, that went around the whole prison system in Western Australia, apparently. It's unbelievable. But of course, you understand how that works. If you give loving kindness again and again and again and again, it wears people down. They cannot refuse it. And this was with prisoners and prison officers. And they knew that I'd won that challenge. Just have to be consistent, never give in. Okay. When we are meditating in the hall, we're mindful of the breath in and out. How about if we are in front of waterfall, mindful of the sound of the waterfall, or still with the breath? I try to be mindful of the breath, but very hard as the sound of the waterfall too loud. I'm mindful of the waterfall sound. It also can make my mind peaceful. Please advise the method I use is correct or not. If it makes the mind peaceful, fine. Remember what I told many of you, that Emperor's 3 questions, meditation. Now is the only time. You're in front of the waterfall. You're right now. And what's the most important or the most important meditation object? Whatever's right in front of you right now. So if the waterfall is right in front of you, and it's calming, then make that your meditation object. And be kind to it. And the waterfall. I don't know if this has happened to you. The sound of the waterfall will be like some sort of symphony eventually. It will start to appear so beautiful. That's the way the perception works. That becomes a lovely meditation. I always wonder how and why a well Dhamma practitioner and wise teacher like Ajahn Chah had a stroke and was bedridden for many years. Could it be because of his diet or karma, or mind is very powerful? Our mind is very powerful. Wouldn't it be possible to use our mind to tend the body? Yes, it would, but because I was there at the time, I think the reason why Ajahn Chah had a stroke, that he was working way too hard. Basically, he would get up early in the morning and talk to monks, any monks who had any problems. And before alms round, then he would go on alms round, he would talk to lay people on the alms round, he'd come back, he would not have any rest. He'd be talking to people, anyone who needed some advice, and even just people who just wanted to talk about their marriage or get their future told or something. And then after lunch, he never had any rest, he'd be talking to people afterwards. And he would go on like that all day with different groups of people. And mostly in the afternoons with the lay supporters would come and ask him questions. And even the military as well. I did tell you his holy water story, didn't I? Okay, here we go. You know that sometimes you see some monks do holy water? I do holy water often, but I didn't bring my materials to do it here. But if anyone wants any holy water, you can do you can ask me to do what Ajahn Chah did to this lady. There was a major general in the army came, and the major general, with his other troops, they never come by themselves, they come usually with a colonel or lieutenants and all sorts of other people. And he came up to see Ajahn Chah and bowed and said, "Can I have some holy water? I'm in the army, it's a dangerous profession." And Ajahn Chah said he doesn't have any holy water. He said, "No, please. I'm a general, I need some." So Ajahn Chah said, "Okay, come here." Just bow in front. And Ajahn just spat all over the general's head. Now, generals are incredibly powerful. They can be on the law. Then to make it worse, Ajahn Chah got his hand and rubbed it in. And the general loved every minute of it. Ajahn Chah, this is special. You're the only one I've done it to. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You know, one of the weirdest holy water stories, which I did, and I mentioned too that sometimes we would meditate throughout the whole night, on the moon nights. So I'd just be meditating all night. Sometimes you get some good meditation, sometimes you're bearing with nothing torpor. But this particular is not a bad night for meditation. So afterwards, when you finish your meditation, you have to go to the toilet. And sometimes, you're a forest monk, sometimes there's no toilets available. So I just urinated in the forest, Asian style, squat down and urinate. Now, first of all, I was tired. Secondly, this was at dawn, the light wasn't that strong. And as I urinated on the forest, the stick which I was urinating on, it was a snake. I urinated on a very venomous snake. I don't know if it was a cobra, I didn't open its hood, but there's so many snakes over there which, one bite and you're dead. And the snake never did anything. I figured out that snake thought it was receiving holy water. And that was such a lucky opportunity for that snake. Anyway, I was scared afterwards, but when it was happening, I was trusting. Okay. One last question then. Finish off, do you want to go longer? Finish now? Last question, okay. Dear Ajahn Brahm, I always wonder how and why. Well, I'll have a picture. I had a stroke. I already answered that question. Oh, we can go to bed now. No, I'll do one more question. Just on a lighter note, how does the acronym PhD become permanent head damage? PhD. That was, what was his name? Actually, the poor, he had a stroke, didn't he? What was his name? Sorry? Alvin, yeah. Yeah. He was the one who told me that kind of funny story, PhD with permanent head damage. And because he had a stroke, how is he going? Is he getting better?
Award for being in the top 100 for the most influential people in the mental health in the world.
Oh, really? Wow. And so he was basically working a bit too much. He got that award, but he got like a temporary stroke or something. Yeah, he's going okay now, okay. But he's the one who told me that joke. He said, no, he's got a doctorate, he's got permanent head damage. Alvin, yeah. I know it's a joke, but for those who have toiled so hard for it, it's an arduous, lonely journey. Only those who have gone through the academic journey will understand what I mean. It's an achievement which we proud of, what we have contributed to scholarly understanding. Anyway, having said that, I'm now a retired professor, learning to let go and taking the Buddhist path to liberation. I'll not use enlightenment as I feel I still have a long way to go. Thank you, Ajahn, for guiding us. You know, there's one of the monks in Bodhinyana Monastery has now got permanent head damage. You know who that is? Yes, Ajahn Raleigh, who's given me an honorary PhD for doing the official English translation of the Vinaya Pitaka from Mahacharanukon University. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bamali, yeah. Sorry? That's right. Tomorrow, okay. Okay. This question, so it's a good question. Oh, I'll get two questions. Start again then. Okay, it's on my fault. Venerable, this question has been in my mind for a while. Hope no offense. Just came clear. Just want to clear up anxiety. Sometimes I saw monks accepting money and participating in singing Buddhist songs. Are they not breaking the monastic precepts? Please enlighten. The accepting money certainly is. So that's one of the reasons why you've seen me always, if you have any money, please put it in a donation box or send it over to monastery, but don't give it to me. But you know, I broke that rule once. I always like saying kind of what happens as a monk. That when I was in Japan for a big conference representing Australia, they gave me this little box, and I thought, well, there must be a little Buddha statue in it. It was actually to take back Australia as what was it called? Thank you for all the service you've been given, and to share it with the Australian Buddhist community. And so when that's in Cambodia, I think, from the Japanese. And when I sort of took it back to the room and I opened it, almost had a heart attack. It was full of about, I don't know how much, it was like, 10,000 Japanese notes, yen notes. It was worth about 50,000 Aussie dollars or something. What have you done to me? So I told everybody else and confessed the offence. And when I got to Singapore, I got them to, can you please share it out with the Buddhist monasteries over in Australia? But no, I'm not going to touch it again. So sometimes people they kind of trick you, they don't realise that forest monks don't accept money ever. Just like there was a Thai tradition. The Thai tradition was that if you want your parent who passed away to receive anything, then you have to offer the very same thing, to the monks, and then your grandfather up in heaven will receive it. So one day at Bodhinyana Monastery, I received a big sort of bucket of sanghadana, toothpaste and soap and towels, and I received it, and then received the next thing. It was a big day for people making offerings, and it was sent downstairs to the Anagarikas. And then one of the Anagarikas came out with a cheeky smile on his face. He said, Ajahn Brahm, do you know what you've just received? The bottle of Johnny Walker. Honestly, they hid it in the middle of the bucket and made sure it was totally concealed so I wouldn't spot it. With so much other, soap and toothpaste and labels, no way I could see it. And they'd done that because then if I'd receive it, they were sure their grandfather who loved his whiskey would be able to get whiskey up in heaven. So as soon as I saw that, I said, well, you have to pour it down the sink. Do we really? Said yes. So that was the last time that happened. So please don't try and trick the monks. We try our best, to keep our rules and precepts. Sometimes they're difficult, sometimes you might not understand, sometimes it causes trouble for you and others. But, I'd rather have the trouble than break precepts and be a monk who's known for accepting money. Just like I'm proud of this place here, that you don't charge on this retreat. It's all done by donation. Just like Jhana Grove. Just by donation. Sometimes it got difficult, simply because how much is the retreat cost? People would ask. And it's nothing, it's for free by donation. Okay, put my name down. And they would never turn up. Because they thought, well, nothing to lose, put your name down. If you feel like it, then you can come. If you don't feel like it, you don't come, nothing lost. But for us, it was really difficult. So now we do what we call a booking bond. So totally refundable. So if you come on a 9-day retreat by me, how much is a booking bond? I don't know anyway, but it's totally refundable. We only do that to make sure you're serious before you put your name down. But anyway, that's actually how we work, to try and make it all for free. Keep money out of it. That kind of distorts the whole process. It doesn't feel as pure and beautiful. Does that make sense to you? So well done for keeping that tradition, that you come here and you don't pay, but if it really works for you, then you give donations so that other people can enjoy it later on. Thank you. And what about me? How much do I charge? I do have a fee. Do you know what the fee is? Priceless. That's what I say in my books. In any of my books, if you don't like those books, you can always ask for your money back. I promise that. And I've always guaranteed that. Any book which got my name on, which you purchase at a bookstore, if you don't like it, you can always ask for your money back. You won't get it, but you can ask. So,